Good afternoon. I'm Ethan Moy here with Coach B as part of another episode of Coach B Weekly. Now, Coach B, a well-dressed man like yourself and myself, I want to know what is your favorite suit and tie combo that you wear during the season? Do you have one, first off?
Yeah, such tough questions to open up all the time.
Because I like what you had yesterday with the tan suit, the pink tie there. Yeah. But do you have like a favorite? Is it like, your RMU tie with the Colonial head on it? Like
with a certain suit?
Yeah.
Well, my style was getting old, I think, for a while as far as, our generations, as far as, how we wore suits,
right.
how they fit, the material. So I had to do some transformations with the suits, and some of the ones you've been seeing are ones I haven't worn yet. They're newer suits.
Okay.
And the tailor, David Allen, is outstanding.
Okay.
He does such a great job for me. He is such a hard worker and such a humble guy. Mm-hmm. He's in this local area here.
Okay.
But it's been such a joy to work with him,
mm-hmm.
and to have him create these suits, and they come back and they fit so amazing, like they just fit right on your body. And so I mean, I think a lot of credit goes to him, not so much me wearing them.
Okay.
But the designer.
Okay.
And so I'm definitely appreciative of all of his service with.
Okay.
He put a little patch on the inside.
All right.
And I wore that one a couple of years back.
Yeah.
When we went on to the tournament and played Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like me in my transition.
Yeah.
Because it was a 3-button. And 3 buttons, back 10 years ago, was it maybe 15 years ago, maybe even, I don't even know. I mean, some people will probably get on me about that.
Right.
Maybe even 15 years ago, it was like really popular.
Mm-hmm.
The high 3-button.
Right.
So we kind of worked together on that one because he was not so much for the 3-button. He says nobody's getting 3-button anymore, but it was that transition suit that came out really nice.
Yeah.
And at that time, I realized that he was a really great, tailor, and that I was looking forward to working with him in the future. So I would probably say that one because it was my first.
Okay.
And I still have it. I still wear it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has our colors.
Yeah.
The blue and the red.
Blue and red, yeah, that's
and it fits the tie that you talk about and things like that. So I would say that's my favorite, even though, again, it's not so much in style right now. It's kind of in that middle. It fits really tailored. It's not baggy. It fits the way it's supposed to fit now, but the 3-button would kind of date it a little bit, but it's still my favorite because of the relationship that we built together, me and David.
Okay, I'm gonna say, speaking of ties, could we ever get you in a bow tie?
Wow. My grandfather used to wear them once in a while. He did. He used to wear them once in a while, and I do think they're very stylish.
Okay.
I just have never even thought about it. I don't think I could do like a clip-on either, so I don't know how to tie a bow tie.
I do know how to tie a bow tie.
Okay.
A lot of the ones that I wear during games are clip-ons, but I do have some actual ones that you tie, so I do know how to do it. I do know how to do it.
Were you taught by somebody? Or?
No. Actually, I think I learned I didn't even know how to tie like a regular tie when I came into college. I think my roommate taught me how to do that.
Wow.
But in terms of tying a bow tie or whatever, I just kind of watched a video and cross them up.
You YouTubed it.
I YouTubed it. YouTube is a magical thing.
So many positive things you can do on YouTube. You can probably put the car together by watching YouTube.
Maybe.
So that's pretty cool. No, I've thought about it before. I just never gone down that road. Sometimes I've even thought about not wearing a tie.
Okay. Going with the casual look.
Just going, I would say, close to almost formal without the tie. Obviously with the suit and the nice shirt. But every time I look at it, I say, it looks too sloppy for me, and I'm just a little bit more old school.
Okay.
To tie the tie on, but the bow tie is something to think about. Maybe one day.
All right, you heard it here first. Coach B might be in a bow tie at some point this season, next season. Just gotta have to wait and see. Gotta tune in to NEC Front Row to find out.
Never say never, right?
That's right. Speaking of basketball, here have 2 wins this past weekend here at the NAC. First one being a 59-56 win over Bryant this past Saturday on ESPN3. A thriller on primetime. I'm sure that they were pretty happy with the result. Our hearts probably were stopping a little bit in that, but it was good for TV. That established a new record for best NEC start. Isabella Posset hit a layup with 38 seconds remaining. That was the go-ahead basket. Didn't trail after that. Take us through that second half, because you were down 8 going into the second half, and then you started on a 13-0 run, and then just kind of counterpunch to borrow a boxing term between the two teams. So take us through that second half and how you kind of managed to weather the storm there, come back, and then land the final blow.
The way the game started, Bryant, we knew would come in and play very hard because they always do, and they were doing a nice job on doing some things to bother us, and they played very inspired. I thought that it was a very hard fought first half, and we definitely had some things we had to adjust at halftime. Some effort issues in some areas that were very big focal points to our scouting report, and we needed to wake up and to get going again and find our pace as Bryant was finding theirs, and did a great job of responding from the halftime talk that we had, and we came out of the locker room with a different energy and a different pace, different intensity, and we came on so quickly to start the second half where we just came right after it and made a nice run there, but that wasn't going to put Bryant away.
Right.
The way that they were playing so inspired, and they came back and put together a little run of their own. I believe maybe 7-0, 8-0 runs.
Something like that, yeah.
And they came right back to fight again. And at that moment, you gotta embrace those moments. Like I always tell the team, you have your hands wide open and a full heart. Life isn't all about you throw a big roundhouse and you knock everybody out. People come, teams come back, players are inspired on the other side, and that makes for what you say, a battle and a classic and all that that people talk about when you have that, that back and forth, nobody's quitting, everyone's giving it their best, and just two great mentalities on the court. So it was good for us, win or lose. It was good for us to be out there and to experience that for all aspects, the basketball life in general, what we put in and what we're looking to get out, which is our best effort and responding when things get tough and handling adversity. So great matchup, great battle all the way to the end, and somebody's got to come away with the victory.
Yeah, it's something that the team can build on going forward there.
Absolutely.
Yesterday, 60-40 in Central Connecticut. After the first quarter, another slow start in the first quarter there. Defense really seemed to turn it on. You got to hit what I call the triple crown defensively, and I might be the only one that calls this a triple crown.
Triple crown.
I'm under 50 points. Under 30% shooting, 20 plus caused turnovers. Did all three. Did 15 the season held under 30% shooting. 8th team to be held under 50 points. 13th that you forced 20 more turnovers. So again, what changed between that first quarter and then the rest of the contest?
It was a different. Routines in life are so important. Like we really value our routines. Not to say that you always can have a perfect routine, because sometimes you don't get to dictate what happens when you wake up.
Right.
And what happened with this situation was we had a Saturday night game because of TV, the ESPN game on Saturday night with Bryant.
Right.
And then we turned around and had a Monday night game. So we didn't have as much time as far as the recovery from Saturday night to Sunday for our practice. So we had to do just a few things at practice, and we talked to the team about how we have to handle this in a positive way, and there's a lot of trust that we are building every day within the team. And so we put a lot of trust into our student athletes to respond to the change of routine and how we handle things a little bit differently in practice. And I thought it was a great response for the bulk of the 40-minute game, but we definitely came out definitely a little bit loose defensively, and I give a lot of credit to Central too. I mean, you can't just look at your side and look at what we could have done so much better. We could have done. Central came out with a great pace, played very hard. They were executing very well, and any mistakes we were making, they seemed to be capitalizing on. So we came out a little bit loose. Loose meaning not tightening the screws that we need to defensively. They got off and started scoring real well early in the game, and they got off to a lead, which they earned. And we had to continue possession to possession to get stronger as the game went on. And that's why I think your triple crown. That's a pretty good triple crown. Yeah. Those things are great stats to hold yourself to. We were able to have a triple crown type of day because as the game went on, we got better. Our defense got more accountable, tighter, and we were playing with so much passion and energy. throughout the whole game. That really meant a lot for what we were able to accomplish defensively.
Right, and to continue with the defensive accolades there, this was the fourth straight game that you've held the opponent's top scorer to under 10 points. I know it's a joint effort among multiple players, but do you think that the team relishes that opportunity to shut down one of their best players?
We've been on the other side of that,
right?
In the past, and that's something that is a big part of scouting and matchups and team defense. A lot of times, when an opponent, say a player that averages a lot of points, a lot of rebounds, you look at it and you say, well, who guarded her, who guarded that player.
You always go like 1v1.
Yeah, 1v1, who guarded him. And a lot of times that has a lot to do with it, who guards them, but the team defense as well. There's a lot of stuff going out there besides one-on-one basketball. There's screening and there's transition. People get matched up with other people. You have to be ready, no matter who you are on the floor, to maybe guard that player as well, or to help that player who's guarding that on your team. It's a team defensive mentality. So, there's a lot of accountability on that matchup, but there's also a lot of accountability on the team to help with the matchup as well. So I give a lot of credit to the whole team for doing such a great job on some of the the high
top
production
players in the league.
Yeah, the high productive players in their trade. So it's been great to see us do well as a team, and obviously with our matchups with that, and it's something to continue to grow on, to continue to focus on it, try to do it better and better every game, and sometimes special players that have great trades will have those nights that they really challenge you to stop them. But you got to make them do that. You got to make them have those special nights. You can't let them get comfortable out there where they're really in a flow of what they're looking to do. So we've been doing a good job with that lately.
Yeah, and then another overlooked statistic here that I noticed recently. With the 2 wins this weekend at home, that extended another streak as it's now 21 straight home wins against NEC in NEC games here. 14 of those have come at the NAC. So what has made it so difficult for NEC opponents to come to Moon Township?
You'd have to ask them. We just kind of treat every game the same, whether we're at home or on the road. How they handle their road and what they feel is tough about the environment here. You'd have to ask them. We love to see the support of the fans.
Yeah, I thought we've had the last 2 games. We had some pretty good crowds this weekend.
That's always important to have that support and that energy for us, for the home team, to always make sure we're controlling that environment as far as our crowd being the loud part of the crowd, and not the traveling opponents and stuff like that. So that's really important. I think that helps a lot, that energy that's in the arena. Just obviously anytime you're on the road, it's difficult sometimes to be in a flow, like you would be at home. So anytime you travel, you got to try to capture that. So obviously it would be something for those opponents to kind of maybe touch upon what they feel is tough about being here. But on our end of things, we just stay true to our routines, and maybe like you said, a lot of times you'll see statistically, home, especially in basketball, home does matter a lot statistically, but to us, I never really buy into that statistic. It's all about
they're all like wooden floors. They all have the same distance, 3-point line, everything like that.
It's just how you handle it. It's how you embrace the challenges. There could be challenges at home because you don't have a good mentality about being at home. A false sense of security, a false sense of comfort. You should never be really comfortable. If you're feeling comfortable, that's a bad thing when you're competing. You should have that sharp mentality and that edge to you, that hunger, that passion. So it could work against you being at home, or it could definitely work for you if you have healthy routines and you hold yourself to standards. You got to have that on both sides, I think, home and road. So I guess ask the opponents, what they feel is really tough about being here, because that's probably within their routines of coming in.
And then Monday's win against Central Connecticut now makes it 8 wins out of the 11 in NEC play that have been by double digits. What are you most impressed about over these performances?
Just, learning from each experience. We have never played a perfect game. There's no perfect game out there. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get in different types of adversity. You're going to have days where you start off real well shooting the ball and the ball's rolling in, or the ball's going in nice and clean and you just feel like you're on fire right off the bat, and then there's going to be days where there's that lid on the basket.
Right.
There's going to be that days that a team throws something at you that you're having tough time defending. How do you handle it? How do you respond? You know, some days we've responded well, and some days, you know, we struggled for a while. Right. And that could be on either side of the ball. And you know, just taking those experiences and then bringing it back to practice. Wanting to get into the video room and watch what we're watching, whether it's clips that you look like you're doing amazing things, or clips that it doesn't look so much like your best game.
Right.
You gotta want the tough stuff. You know, that it was great that after the Super Bowl was over, we talked a little bit about our predictions and all that. Right. But what I really took away from it was that I really like to hear about, you know, the routines and the things that were said post Super Bowl. You know, because, you know, obviously Super Bowl is probably one of the biggest championships in America as far as, you know, major sports. Right. And I really like to hear how the athletes and the coaches and you know, even the owners and everything handle it with humility. And you know, the one quote that I thought was amazing that kind of ties into what we're saying is Tom Brady's quote. Yeah. About how he says he doesn't like to hear the compliments. Right. You know, and that's a great quote. It really is. Now, you know, he might get fired up and passionate if he hears the criticism too sometimes, if he feels it's not his fault, because I've seen him that way as well. You know, no way do I think his quote makes him perfect in how he handles adversity all the time, but obviously he's great at it. There's no question. There's no perfect again. He's great at it. You know, is he the greatest of all time? I don't get into that. Right. I never like saying the GOAT and all that. To me, you know, that's for debate and it's fun to do that. Yeah. I let
talking heads.
Yeah, I let others. You know, I mean, statistic. You know, like if you know a lot of statistics, if you witnessed a lot of championship performances, there's a lot of ways to value that. But when you see, you know, greatness like athletes like Tom Brady, say something like that, it should mean something to other athletes that are inspiring to be great. You know, wanting to hear the tough stuff, the criticism, not wanting to hear how great you are and how you're invincible and how you just go out there and have confidence, even if you don't prepare. Right. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and hopefully, you know, what the younger athletes are taking from it, and of course, our program as well, when we talk about things of humility and how to handle each game and reflect and go over it, is that even the great ones, you know, they're talking about this stuff. This is how they've become greater. They continue to grow, and the sacrifice. I think that has a lot to do with it as well. And again, I mentioned Tom Brady again because we're on, you know, this kind of thing, and I listened a lot because they won the Super Bowl this year. His diet, him going to bed early every night, those are sacrifices. Like them or don't like them. That's all for whatever. You have to respect when anyone sacrifices to do well. And so
the effort that he's putting in for that,
Right. I mean, there's effort there. So as much as, again, if you don't like his personality, if you don't like the way he plays, if you don't like the Patriots, if you don't like whatever, that's all fine. I mean, I'm not here to promote saying you should like the team. Right. It's just you have to respect when someone sacrifices to be great. And so I think that has a lot to do with, you know, what we're learning right now is you know, you win a game, you have to be willing to still be able to come back and sacrifice and still want to come back and find out the things we didn't do well. Don't get caught up in all the you know, the high and low type of mentality. Let's stay steady and find out what we can do better. And I think that's what we have to keep doing every day in order to be great.
Absolutely. I got 3 fan questions here for you. The first one is from Tracy. She asked, what has made, and you kind of already answered this a little bit, but we'll ask it again. What has made the matchup with Bryant so difficult this year? You know, both games being 3-point games, both coming down to like the last seconds. You know, what has made that game?
Well, at first I got to give credit to Bryant. You know, they played very hard, and you know, you saw some of the shots they were hitting on Saturday night were not all easy shots where we broke down. They hit tough shots. There was contested shots, long shots, you know, just great plays made. Got to give them credit for that. I mean, you know, you step up and you make plays and you do things like that. I mean, of course, we're always going to look at what we can do better and what maybe they're doing to disrupt us and things like that. But you know, first and foremost, you got to give credit to the opponent for how well they played as well. So I'd say giving them a lot of credit for how well they played, and then, you know, obviously, you know, just some things that we got to tighten up that they've done a good job of going after, and you know, we just got to get better at it. You know, I'd really say that those were really generally speaking, without getting too specific where I can talk forever,
Yeah.
because I start going into video and I start talking about like things we're working on in practice. But I think that's probably what, who asked the question again?
That was Tracy.
Tracy. Yeah, it's, you know, I think Tracy probably would want to know, just generally speaking, what really disrupted it. And I think what first and foremost is Brian played a great game, both places.
Yeah.
You know, at their place and at our place, played 2 great games and had some great performances, hit some great shots, and played very inspired. So I give a lot of credit to their coaching staff and their team as well for how they played. And obviously we got to tighten some things up that we were doing out there that has obviously made those games as also, you know, the way they've been. So that's a great question, because you know, I know that's probably something that people are wondering, like what in detail, and you know,
especially when I just asked about 8 double-digit wins in 11 NEC games.
Right. So you kind of look at it, so what about them? You know, it's you know, give them
answer.
credit. And
good question, good answer.
Good question, and you know, hopefully a good answer. And hopefully I'm kind of answering without. I could be very long-winded with that answer if we start getting into technical stuff, but. You know, it's a great question, and you know, we have to continue to figure things out, and it's all good for us. You know, like when you play a team and it's tough, it's good for you. You know, not just because you came away with a win and it was tough, win or lose. It's great to get into those games and learn something about ourselves and how we can continue to work to develop and be better.
Yeah. Then I got one from Craig from Gitsonia. He asked, mental health awareness and self-care seems to be increasingly important to issues to student athletes at RMU. What sort of things does the team do to promote good mental health? Well,
I'll tell you something. Every day we do this video. I mean, every day, every week. Not every day. Don't get any ideas. Right? But every week we do the weekly show, which is a great joy to do. And I got this picture that's in my office here that, you know, that
I kind of thought that you were going to get.
And I'm staring at it all the time. It's a friend of mine, Mark Merrill, you know, who was a professional wrestler. That you know, we did a lot of work to get him out here, reaching out to him. He's from my neighborhood and stuff, back in the west side of Buffalo, and just a great person. Amazing what he's doing, traveling around the whole country, the world. He's even going international now. A Mother's Love, if you go on YouTube, it's a great video that kind of gives one of his motivational speeches. And A Mother's Love, anyone that's listening, it's an amazing video. Those kind of things that we had Mark Merrill come to campus and to speak, not just for our team, but for the whole, you know, university. And you know, we did our thing of helping, you know, the setup and the breakdown, spend extra time with them, you know, kind of our service and our you know, our part of our humility towards understanding of not just bringing him out and getting all the glory of, you know, what he's doing for us with talking to us, but then helping him and helping his staff, helping the school. That was a big moment for us with mental health, because I think that's a big part of mental health, is not just being told what you can do to do better, but going out there and do what you can do to do better, like helping others, putting others first, you know, being, you know, taking life as a mentality of being a servant to others, you know, putting others in front of yourself. I think that's important for mental health, not just, you know, tricks and things you can tell yourself to get through the day. We're really about embracing the day, you know, the tough times, the good times. It's all part of life. It's all things that you have to keep away from being angry. And I think that's huge with mental health, and you know, bringing in Mark and him speaking to the school and talking about depression and, you know, things that you can do is so important. That inspiration is so important, having people that are very good at talking about it and understanding people that are identifiable, that are, you know, people that you identify that are traveling around doing this. That's a big component of it. So I'd say that's one part. Your daily routine. You know, staying on path. We talk about a lot. Staying on path, you know, not looking to get off path, but staying on that path of, you know, wanting to have a positive and productive day every day, and not looking at it as misery. It's a big part of what we're doing. I mean, because it's easy to say, you know, it's easy to say that we're going to be mentally healthy and we're going to do great things, and, you know, and then life happens. Then you got to go to work, I say. And when you got to go to work, you got to work with others, and you got to be able to handle adversity and things like that. So when tough times happen, to not get, you know, selfish, and to stay within, you know, serving others in front of yourself, all people. that's just really a big part of our mental health every day. And if you stay on that path, and not look for, the rewards of everything you're doing, but just the rewards of seeing others grow with each other, that's the best part of a team. And that's why it's so hard to be a part of a team. And I say that the first day. This is going to be the hardest thing that they're going to have to do, is be a part of a team. But if you stay focused on what we're talking about here and serving others in front of yourself, I think that's probably the healthiest thing for mental health. And when we go on the road and stuff like that, I love to be able to go out and to serve others as well. Like when we took our trips and stuff like that, to bring our program all the way to the West Coast and down south and wherever we go, and just experience things. And we get stuck sometimes in our shell of our normal routine every day of, we get up, we come to practice, we go to class, and we do little things here and there, but experiencing other things and seeing other sides of the country, the world, it helps a lot. It helps a lot too with mental health as well, because it puts things into perspective again. We can sometimes get so stuck in that what we're going through is so difficult, and then there's others that are that they have it much worse, and you can see smiles on those others' faces. The last thing I'm gonna say about this, because it's really long-winded, you got to watch with these kind of questions. These kind of questions can get me going, because it's such a big part of our lives as Robin Morris women's basketball, mental health, and how we are looking to help others. But when you come to work every day and you start getting stuck in that mentality of it's so tough and it's so grueling. You lose games, like in our world, you lose games, or there's injuries, there's pain. We could really get caught up in how terrible it is for us. But there's videos and stuff that you can see. The healthy part of YouTube and things like that is that you can find these videos sometimes of kids that are don't even have shoes. They can't even afford shoes in the street. Are dancing and hugging each other and having a great time and just healthy joy. And it's just a lesson. It's a lesson that you don't have to have everything perfect set up for you to be happy. You don't have to be wealthy and rich, and you could have very little and you could be and happy. And I think we found that out when we were in LA. A lot of that, when that Thanksgiving dinner, we came encountered with so many people that you would think would be so mad and angry in their situation, but they were so joyful that we were there helping them and just being able to talk to us and get to know us. And there were so many conversations that were going on, and they were so appreciative of it. So a loaded question there for me, because that's really how mental health is with us. There's those moments where you can bring in people that can help you with it and teach you different things, like Mark Merrill, but you also the most important thing is to live it every day and live experiencing healthy joy where you can be doing for others. I think that's a big part of mental health, is putting others in front of yourself, and it's a great world.
Yeah, you're talking about Mark Merrill's A Mother's Love. This last question is from your mother.
Oh,
Diane.
wow.
Yeah, she.
How do we allow my mother to get this right here?
Hey, I just picked the question.
All right, we're going to have to talk about this. All right, well, we'll see what the question is.
She asked, when you get into a tense situation during a game, what do you think about to stay relaxed?
Well, it's been something that has been a big part of coaching for me. It is a great question that my mother said, because I feel it's something that in life and coaching and everything else, it's so important to understand, to continue to think clearly and to stay focused on what you're doing. You have to sacrifice as a coach. You have to sacrifice as a student athlete. What we're doing is competing, and adversity comes all shapes, all ways, all different ways when we're out on the court. And so, one of the biggest things that I felt was going to be so important for our coaching staff and our student athletes was the constant message of how to handle adversity, how to handle it in the moment. You always reflect afterwards and try to see how could I be better, but in the moment, how can you handle it? And so really that's just kind of what I've continued, not just in the games, but in practice, just coming to the office every day. How about when we leave here and we handle life with your family or your friends or all different things that are coming at us. Just continuing to challenge yourself, not trying to turn it on and turn it off, but just just embrace life just that way. You know, if you're lost in the woods, are you going to get out of the woods by going crazy and blaming others and screaming and just losing your mind?
Yeah.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you probably can get out of there if you just, you know, try to think as clear as you can and not think the worst, and to really continue to think positively. You know, everyone motivates themselves differently, and I wouldn't say that, you know, the way that I handle adversity or the way I coach is for everybody. You got to really coach to your personality. I always say that, and coach to the things that you value and what you care about, because you gotta live with yourself every day when you wake up and when you go to bed. So I would say that's really my reason for maybe, you know, looking a little different is that, you know, adversity, we all have adversity in our lives, but that's how I feel you need to handle it. You need to, you know, embrace the moments of adversity and not think the worst or focus on anything outside of that, you know, that tight circle that you have there, which is, you know, who's competing on the court together at that time, and who's going to be able to help and to serve when those moments happen. So, you know, my mom came up with a great question. She's kind of cheating there because you know, we speak and we talk sometimes, and we talk about a lot of important stuff in both of our lives, and that's great. And I gotta confess one thing.
Yeah.
After you asked me about the hair thing.
Yes.
We talked about NECA before. My mother brought up to me that I was mistaken and I forgot about a moment in my life.
Okay, this could be good.
I did have a hairdo. Okay, so when I was a young kid, I grew up in the era where Michael Jackson was very popular. Okay, now I was growing up on the west side of Buffalo, and I want you to understand this is that we weren't very wealthy. You know, we were very humble background. I lived above my grandmother, which we call Nani. My great grandmother lived behind us. We called Big Grandma. We had no grass. It was all concrete. It was right in the city. Houses were so close to each other that you can jump from one window out the side of the house and probably land in the other.
Yeah.
That's how close the houses were stuck on each other. So I wouldn't trade it in the world for anything, believe me. I'm just mentioning it so you can kind of picture where I was at. And I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood. But Michael Jackson was super popular, probably across the world, but especially growing up where I was, everyone seemed to love him, and that's all I can remember is that where I was is that Michael Jackson was so popular, so we all were trying to emulate him as kids. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was young, and I felt like I could have his hairdo. And so I was told that you forgot about this. My mom told me the hairdo, and what I think at the time Michael Jackson had it was like considered Jerry curl.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought that if I got the hairdo like Michael Jackson's, that I would act and be able to do the moonwalk. I could get his jacket and everything, and I was just going to turn into Michael Jackson. So my mom was a beautician. Okay, she was a beautician, and she did really well. She graduated with honors in beauty school, so I figured she can do everything. And so I said, I want my hairs
like Jerry curl.
Yes. So my mom wasn't very good at a Jerry curl. She did my hair, and I thought when she was going to put me in front of the mirror, I was going to look like Michael Jackson. I'm going to look just like Michael Jackson. So we got to get on the bus in the morning. All the kids are going to say, wow, well, he looks just like Michael Jackson. Well, I didn't quite look like Michael Jackson. I looked more like Little Orphan Annie. And I remember crying. I do remember that she put me in front of the mirror. It was probably the most disappointing moment ever as a child of, you know, something like that, you know, and like, you know, just something that I was visioning was going to happen. It was probably the most disappointing moment. I remember just crying and going, oh my God, what have you done? I can't go like this. And she fixed it back up. But that moment of just like, whoa, wait a minute, I do not look like Michael Jackson. Was there a picture taken? You'd have to ask my mom about that. I don't think so, because if there was, I think it would have surfaced by now somewhere. I've never seen that picture for a good reason, but I don't think there is one. And if there is one, I'm going to have to try to confiscate that before it comes out. That's my hair. All right. I forgot about it.
That's a good story there. Yeah. Lastly here, back on the road this weekend. Mount St. Mary's on Saturday, St. Francis, PA on Monday. It's a different kind of road trip because, you know, we usually fly somewhere or out in that area for, you know, a good 3-4 days. This one, bus to Mount, bus back home. With that kind of, you know, a different kind of road schedule there, is that any more difficult to manage compared to, you know, flying out and being away from Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania in general for 4 days?
Yeah, every time you travel a little differently, times are adjusted. You know, there could be some type of, you know, like, this doesn't feel the same. But it's our job as a coaching staff and as a student athletes to have our hands wide open and a full heart, like I always say, and just embrace whatever challenge this road trip is. Whether like we said, we had some change of times, some different schedules with practice and things like that, some different routines. And you just got to embrace it, and it'll get the best of you if you let it.
Right.
And so we just have to, just take it one game at a time. Don't think about after the Mount game and what we're doing until the Mount game's over, and then go on to the next moment. So just staying locked in on Saturday and just going out and getting out there and getting a good night's sleep and getting up in the morning and being ready to go and have that that game ready mentality, have that scouting report in real tight, and then go out and play that first game, because that's the only game we should be thinking about. It's travel is a monster for us because of us being such a outsider.
The westernmost school,
by far. Obviously there's other challenges for St. Francis and Mount, who are a little bit of a ways as well, but we are the furthest away, and that makes travel for us so constantly something that we have to make sure we're focusing on as a staff. That way we make it the best we can for our student athletes.
Right.
We're always concerned about the welfare of how we travel and how rested they are, and how the peak performance could be there with our routine. So we'll have everything how detail oriented we are. You're always with us. Very detail orientated and and time efficient, and that's what we we don't sit on that. We continue to try to make it better, and that's what we'll do for the next travel, and make sure we stay focused on the first one.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for joining me, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Ethan. I appreciate it.
The Mount St. Mary's game is Saturday at 1 p.m. It can be seen on NEC Front Row. St. Francis, PA is a 7 p.m. tip on Monday. It can be seen on both NEC Front Row and ESPN3.